Hey, everybody.
Hey,
welcome
y'all.
back to another fantastic edition of the show. We are glad that you are here with us, man. We don't take it for granted.
No, we don't. You could be anywhere, but you're here and we appreciate you. So thank you.
100%, man. We're going to do it like we do every single week. We got another set of fantastic guests on tap for you all to help you take dominion of your money and your life. What are we talking about today, girl?
What are we talking about? Driving for dollars.
We're talking about building wealth, real
Wholesaling,
estate.
yes.
Getting that paper.
Super excited, yes, to have the Polites. I love their name. The Polites on
Sound like
our
a
show.
stage name, but it's really their name.
Yes, yes. I love their name. Great teachers, great, just great educators, and super excited to have them talk about wholesaling.
Yeah, man, this is a great way to get into a lot of you all have ideas and thoughts and ambitions about real estate investing, but some of you feel like there's this super high barrier to entry. Well, we're going to talk about a technique and a strategy that doesn't necessarily have that high barrier to entry, but it takes some works and some organization, and that's why we got a couple of experts to help you guys navigate how to do this. So get your notes, pen, or your note app, get it open, because they're going to drop some gems that you all will need. So let's get Dedric and Krystal on so we can hear their great story and their great advice. Hey, Dedric. Hey, Krystal. Welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
What's
up,
guys?
How's it going?
Thanks for having us.
We are excited to have you guys here. You all have an incredible story. You all have incredible businesses, and you all are helping people build for themselves. And so we were excited to be able to make this interview happen and get you guys on. You all have a great bank of knowledge that we know that our audience is going to learn and love. So for those who are being introduced to you for the very first time, can you all say hello to them and let them know what you guys are all about?
Yeah, so I'm Dedric. This is my amazing wife, Krystal. I pinch myself every day that she chose me. But we're real estate investors. We're serial entrepreneurs. We're also parents to two young boys. We've become educators and mentors, and we're all about building wealth. And, we're the type of people, if we know something that's valuable, that's helped us tremendously, we just can't help but share it. And that's kind of how we ended up on this journey of sharing and educating. And we've kind of documented our process of going from working 9-to-5 jobs, working in corporate America, and getting into investing in entrepreneurship. And now we're both full-time entrepreneurs, financially independent, and really just building an empire and just trying to inspire others along the way.
That's dope.
Love that.
So what came first? Because you said entrepreneurship and real estate investing. What came first? Because you did both while having 9-to-5s. A lot of people are at work right now, maybe on their lunch break, got dreams, got goals, want to be in the seats that y'all are currently sitting in. But take us back to how this whole thing got started.
So I would say how it got started was from our first date. That's how it got started. Ironically, our first date was a business meeting. So at that point in time in my life, I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew who I wanted. And I just really needed to make sure we were equally yoked. So the first time we sat down over lunch, it wasn't about, what's your favorite food, what's your favorite color. I didn't care about any of that. I wanted to know, his plans for the future, where he planned on living, if he was an entrepreneur, because I knew I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18 years old with the business. So I knew I could date someone who might not have been, but there was no way I was ever going to marry someone who was an entrepreneur, because it takes one really to understand one. So I wanted to know what, if any, he was doing as far as entrepreneurship, which he was. We learned what his goals were, what my goals were, credit scores. All of this is stuff we got out the way on our very first business.
First date. She cut right to the chase.
How did that feel, Dedric? I mean, like,
did you know it was a business meeting?
You trying to figure out an appetizer, and she said, "What's your 5-year plan?"
Right. What's your FICO score? and I think it came at a perfect time. We were both in our late 20s. We both dated and traveled the world, and she was more ready to settle down than I was, and we dated for 2 or 3 years before we got married, and all that. But that was the first meeting. And as far as real estate entrepreneurship, again, she's been an entrepreneur since she was a kid. I've always had dreams of being an entrepreneur, but I was a wantrepreneur for many years. I had a really good corporate job. I had the expense account. I had the company credit card, wore a suit and tie to work every day. But I didn't see myself doing that for the next 20, 30, 40 years. So I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2001, 2002, and it planted a seed in my mind about becoming an entrepreneur and becoming a real estate investor. And I continued to read books and tapes and go to seminars and hire coaches, but I never took any massive action. I would just kind of dabble my foot in the water and not really take action until I met her. And she's really the one in 2009 that we met. And she was like, look, I don't just talk about this stuff. I'm really about it. So if you're going to be with me, we got to do this. So that's kind of when we started diving into different businesses.
Legal & General America is the leader in low-cost term life insurance.
For nearly 70 years, Legal & General America has been providing financial protection to over 1.3 million families and businesses.
LGA makes understanding and applying for life insurance easy.
You can get a free quote by simply going to hisandhermoney.com/LGA.
All right, so you just said a cool phrase. I'm going to dive into it. You said for a while you were a wantrepreneur. So a lot of people may be resonating with that. Man, am I a wantrepreneur? I have been talking about this business idea that God gave me 17 years ago. And, for you had what some would say was the dream. You went to school. You got the good job. You got the corporate status, corporate car, corporate this, corporate that.
But the key word that he said, and I was going to address that, was I never took massive action.
Yeah, that's
powerful.
That's what I was wondering for you. And for those listening, how do you shift gears to go from wantrepreneur to entrepreneur?
Yeah, how I shifted gears, guys, was really a few things. Part of it was mindset. So literally I had to develop my mindset. So I stopped watching NFL football and NBA every single weekend, right? Because those guys are already making millions. It wasn't helping me. I started listening to podcasts like your podcast. I started going to YouTube University. I started hanging around folks who are already entrepreneurs. So the mindset and the education combined, right? When you're hanging around folks and they're all doing entrepreneurship and you're just not, you either adapt to that, that association that you're around, or you're kind of like left out. So those are some of the things that kind of helped me go from being an entrepreneur. And again, this young lady right here, there was no other option. We were doing it. It didn't matter what business. We were doing a business to escape corporate America.
I love it.
And I think another thing with it was really having that person who believes in you, right? Or you believing in yourself enough to know that, okay, listen, this is where I'm at now, but it's not where I'm going to stay. And with Dedric, it was, when we met and he was like, oh, I'm going to the club. And this is when we first met. I said, listen, am I making money at the club? And he was like, well, no, we just go. I said, then I'm not going. I have went to a club in almost every state. At that point, I was done with the club. And I told him, I said, the only way I'm going into a club is if I'm coming out with a check. So if someone ain't paying me from going, I'm not going. And I had to switch his mindset from popping bottles.
I was 28.
Right.
Out there in the
These are
streets.
28.
He was. My baby was in the streets. But I had to tell him, we got to shift our mindset. And I told him at that time, it got critical because we started dating. We were 2 months in. He had literally just got laid off from his job. And with his educational background, his entire self-worth was tied up into his net worth. And his title and job, because he comes from such a prestigious university. So that was everything to him. And when he lost it, he was super depressed. I was like, I couldn't understand it. I couldn't fathom it. So I was like, went to his house. I was like, what are you doing? And he was like, nothing.
I was depressed.
He was super depressed. And I was like, listen, that job lost you. You didn't lose that job. I said, what you're going to do right now is you're going to get up. You're going to take your time now to figure out what Dedric wants to do. Forget about going and finding another job. I'll hold us down. I'll make sure everything is paid. You don't worry about that. You find out what you want to do and what is your passion, what Dedric was really meant to do. And that's what we're going to do. And from there, he was like, no, big, don't worry about that. I can't let you do that. I said, don't worry about it. It's already done. I wasn't discussing it with you. I was just telling you what was going to happen. I said, now go and find your true passion because you weren't meant to work for someone else.
Wow.
He was like, all right, literally within, I'm going to say a week or two, he found Airbnb and brought it to my attention. 2012. And he was like, hey, well, I did find this, a coworker put me onto this website called Airbnb. And at the time he had his own 3-family. I had an apartment. He was like, well, we could rent your apartment out, but your brother's living in there. But I was going to say we could rent it out, make some money. I said, well, he was living in there. Give me a second. Right then, I said, hey, listen, you got 2 weeks. And you got to be gone because the place is going to be rented. Oh, no.
He wasn't paying no rent either.
I'll start paying rent. No, it's already done. You have 2 weeks. And then I told him, what do we need to do? And he was like, oh, okay, well, this is what we got to do from here. And he told me, and I just started executing. Okay, this is what we got to do. All right, boom, boom, boom. So 2 months in, just dating, we had started Airbnb. And this is 2012. We started with Airbnb. What was it? Maybe a year later.
We made enough part-time to pay for your mom's wedding.
Yeah.
Cash.
And I think 4 or 5 months, we had made how much?
About 40,000.
About 40,000.
Wow.
Profit from Airbnb in like 4 months. And then I say about a year after that, we bought a franchise together. And a lot of women come to us like, hey, well, how do you know when to start a business with your boyfriend or spouse? I say, listen, you got to believe in the person that you're dating before you believe in the man that you're going to marry. And I believed in him as a boyfriend. So I knew I was going to believe in him as a husband, but I had to instill that trust in him as a boyfriend to lead me. And as an alpha female, that's kind of hard at times. I got to trust the man that I'm going to follow. So I let him lead us from Airbnb to a franchise. We bought a franchise in like three franchises from Charlotte, New Hampshire, and one in Greensboro. And then from there, I told him one day, I said, listen, I want to sell this franchise, take everything and roll it into real estate. Let's do what you really have been wanting to do your whole life. And we were literally making how much with that franchise a year?
Again, we both had corporate jobs at this point. This is 2015. We bought a franchise. We actually found a distressed seller. He was selling a franchise for $50,000 that produced about $200,000 in annual revenues. So we bought that. I cashed in my 401k from corporate. We bought the franchise. We grew up to about $300,000 and 13 employees in 3 different states. And again, we both still had jobs. We're doing this on the side.
Yep.
To try to escape.
Was the franchise in the food industry?
No, it was animal rides. So if you see those little scooters that ride around the mall, the kids on the little furry scooters.
They make that much money?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when I first saw it. I was like, this is business, right? But
Yeah.
when I actually looked at the numbers, I was like, man, you can actually make some good money.
Wow.
So we bought that. We actually sold it 18 months after we bought it for double what we paid for it. And we took those monies and rolled it over into real estate investing.
Wow.
Okay, go ahead. I got so many questions.
I know you do.
Crack something open.
This is my first question. No, actually, it's a statement. The theme of your story is that you guys didn't stay down. You all literally got up, figured it out as you went. And then if you don't want to keep doing it, you sold it to ultimately fund your dream job, your dream life, which is that of real estate. I think that's what's so powerful about your story that I hope that those that are listening know. Tyler and I, we started 7 businesses?
Yeah.
Before we actually got into the financial education field. And that's my background. But we started 7 businesses until we really found the one that really brought us joy. And so you all try things, get out there. Don't be afraid to actually put yourself out there. And just like the Polites did and try it all if you have to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're really big on failing forward. I mean, fail your way forward. We've tried probably a dozen businesses
Absolutely.
that we've tried and failed at,
Yep.
right? But we didn't stop with that failure. We kept going to the
Kept
next
going.
thing, to the next thing until something worked.
I love it.
Talk about the strategy with your money in this phase of your life, because you both have 9-to-5s. Now you both are doing Airbnb, and then the franchise comes up. So how are you all allocated? Is there a certain percentage of your paycheck that's going in your minds towards entrepreneurial endeavors, going towards a down payment on the next property? For those who are sitting at their 9-to-5s and want to start to build a strategy, a ramp, so to speak, from this life to the next, like, how are you all doing that? How did you all position yourself an opportunity so that when this franchise opportunity came, you could strike?
Great question. So as far as the franchise goes, we were trying to purchase it through bank financing. And because it was non-traditional,
You couldn't get a bank to loan
right.
money on it.
So Dedric ended up taking it out of your...
Yeah, we looked into
401k.
SBA loans, all that stuff, and everybody turned us down. 20 different banks. Nope, it's not traditional. It's not a restaurant. It's not a hair salon. It's not a barbershop. So I cashed in my 401k and was like, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. We're going to bet on ourselves with this. And that's how we bought that franchise.
Yep.
But just to preface that, we both come from single parent households. You know, my mom raised 3 sons on her own. Her mom raised 4 kids on her own. So we didn't come from money. We didn't see examples of couples who manage money and build wealth together. So we kind of had to figure out on our own, like a lot of people in our community.
Yep.
But, you know, we've always been pretty good stewards of money. So as far as what we did is we used our job as our first investor, right? Use that 9-to-5, that paycheck. Whenever you get a bonus, whenever you get commission. That's why I love sales. I've been in sales my whole career because I would take all of my commissions.
That's what I used to tell him all the time. Like, the sky's the limit, right?
I hate sales so bad.
I love it.
Take the whole commission check and put it into business. Hey, I made $2,000 this month. I had a great month of commissions. Put it into marketing for the business, whatever is needed for the business. So we both used our jobs as our first investor.
Now, I would say, just to be honest and transparent, because that's what people know us for, right? No chaser. Dedric was a good steward of money. I, however, was not. Okay. And it wasn't me for as far as I don't do the designer handbags and the latest shoes. I didn't need any of that. I literally was single when I met him, no children, and I worked 3 jobs. Literally, we're from Boston originally. So everyone knows Boston is like the 3rd most expensive city to live in the US, right? So I was making probably about $140,000, $40,000. And it seemed like 10,000 to me because I was always putting it into some type of a business, right?
And supporting family.
Literally like nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters.
Bailing people out. Every friend, I was everybody's child's godparent. It was crazy. I'm like, why they gotta pick you every time? You got like 13 kids.
And Dedric, on the other hand, will be that no godchildren.
They do.
And to get money from him, you had to come with like a promissory note. You had to come with trust, a business plan, and I started to see that. And like I said, from the first meeting, I knew from my first date, I knew his credit score was like an 810, 820 from my very first date. And I always said, listen, one, I have to marry someone smarter than me. And I think I'm smart. But I knew I had to marry someone smarter than me in order to keep my attention. In order for me to grow, I needed someone who challenged me. And that was him. And I also needed someone with better credit and knew more than I did around financing. And that was him. And it's carried on. So like, even when we got together, first thing I did was completely started to revamp my credit. And with my credit, we went to some of the biggest companies out there. Oh, credit repair. So we're dropping all this money for credit repair. It wasn't working fast enough for me. So I took it on my own, did it myself.
cleaned up your own
and
credit.
cleaned up my own credit. To like
wrote the letters, made the phone calls.
Do it yourself.
That's right.
Yep.
Everything my own,
Score shot up.
and shot my score up to 780, coming from like a 610 or something, like a 600. And one of the things we tell people, for us, how we really went full time in the business was, we said, okay, we're both working 9 to 5s. In order for us to really get into the real estate game and be really serious in it, one of us got to go full time. And we looked at each other's salaries. He was making a lot more because he was doing sales. I said, I'll go in first. I'll go into the business first. So what we did was, the year prior to us going into real estate full time, we started to take my salary, and each quarter we would save a portion of my salary. So it started with 25%. Then it went to 50%, 75% till we were banking 100% of my salary, and we were just solely living off of his salary alone. And we wanted to make sure we could continue to do this for when I left corporate America. And that was one of the easiest ways for us to transition, is making sure that we could still live off of his base salary, not his commissions, because Dedric was real diligent on saving.
Well, we invested the commissions.
Yeah, saving his commissions to invest them. So that's literally how we did it as a couple, to make sure that the transition was a lot easier, smoother, and we weren't sacrificing a whole lot, right? But it worked for us.
Love it. So let's talk about the next phase in the real estate. You all sold that franchise, and what was like your first approach in putting the money into real estate?
Yeah, so we sold that franchise in the fall of 2017. And again, we had heard about wholesaling as a way to get in, like an entryway into real estate investing. And we heard we can make all this money, but it always seemed a little like shady and scammy. I'm like, hold on. You mean to tell me you can make 10, 20,000 flipping a house that you don't even own? So it's like, I wanted to do it, but I'm like, I don't know if that's even legal.
And break down to our audience, before you get into that, break down to our audience. Some people are hearing that for the first time, wholesaling. What is that? What does that mean?
So wholesaling is basically getting a house under contract for a wholesale price. Typically, the seller has to be motivated, right? They had death, divorce, they lost their job. Something happened where they need to sell this house fast. So it's finding that person who's motivated to sell. They're willing to take a little bit less for the house because they need the cash quickly. Getting the house under contract and then selling your contract to another investor who's actually going to close on the house, fix it up and flip it or rent or whatever. And you taking a fee in between. So that's wholesaling. So we started out wholesaling, but the only reason we started wholesaling is because we didn't have the cash to do fix and flip. We wanted to flip houses like everybody else you see on TV, but we didn't have a couple $100,000 sitting in the bank. So it's like, let's wholesale, let's make 10, 20, 30, 40,000, bank that, and then get into flipping and buying rental properties. So our whole end game was cash flow, right? We didn't even really care about flipping houses. We're like, how can we build a massive portfolio of 5,000, 10,000 units that spit off enough cash flow so we never have to work again? So that was the reason we got into real estate, and the reason we started with wholesaling, and we quickly graduated to buying and holding, flipping, and building a portfolio.
Yeah, the thing about wholesaling that's unique for a lot of people listening is, in other areas of real estate investing, you got to come out of pocket, whether that's a down payment, whether that's rehab, so on and so forth, where what you're describing with wholesaling is you're just the middleman. There's a lot of manual labor, but it's not cash intensive like
and manually searching
others
for the property,
right.
Driving by the property, things like that, locating the property.
So for somebody who's
right.
hearing wholesaling for the first time, you captured their attention. What are some things that they need to know in order for this to be something that they can do with success? Because there's a lot of people out there who speak, talk about, make content about wholesaling. They make it look super easy. All you got to do is A, B, and C, and boom, deposits. But, this is a very intricate game. So kind of, break it down for people who are learning about this technique for the first time.
Okay, I'll go real quick and then she'll go. So wholesaling, just on your point, tell it, is, you can lock up a property. This is my checkbook. I've locked up millions of dollars of properties with this checkbook, putting as little as $100 down as a deposit. Literally, we got a wholesale deal closing tomorrow where I put an earnest money deposit of $100 down, and our assignment fee for being a middleman is going to be $11,500.
Wow.
That's one deal, right? Imagine doing 5 to 10 of those a month. You can buy some rental properties with that. You can, you can start some businesses with that. We locked up another 46-unit portfolio from a seller who's retiring. I gave him 2 checks for $100. 2 checks. That portfolio is worth about $1.5 million. We're getting it for $1.1 million. But because of the relationship I built with him, he's like, Dedric, you just handed me 2 $100 checks. This wouldn't work with most sellers, but you've already bought 4 properties from me, so I trust you. So I'm like, okay, thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Wow. Right. And a lot of it is, like you said, so many people say, oh my God, you can get into this. No money, no money, no money. Listen, I tell people, and I try and keep it as honest as possible. Because, everybody say I started out and they were homeless and now they are worth $1.4 billion, right? Everybody got that same story. I started out, everybody was broke. Nobody wants to say, hey, I had a little money. And, I got into this business, I saved up and used my savings to get into this business. Everybody think it's easier to say I was dead broke on my last $8
in jail.
And, and now I'm making $42 million.
Right. Come on.
I try to tell people like, yo, listen, you can fall for that if you want. We just weren't up for the smoke screens. So we knew it was a lot of work ahead of us. And we're stewards of education. Like everything, we are always learning. Always, always, always learning something new. And for us in the business, marketing was everything, right? And I tell people either you're going to have a lot of time or you're going to need a lot of money getting into wholesaling. So you're going to have to be willing to sacrifice one of the two. And for us, we had a little money, it wasn't a lot, but we had a little something that we done saved up, to help us in this journey. And what we did was we took that money and we paid for mentorship and coaches, masterminds. And we had literally spent over $100,000 in just education and hadn't closed one deal.
Whoa.
Wow.
Literally not.
Over like a 2-year period.
Over a 2-year period, hadn't closed one wholesale deal yet. But what it did was it allowed us to fast track our education, the learning process, really. So by the time we knew a deal was really a deal on the plate, instead of us having to go baby steps through this deal, we fast tracked it. We knew what was coming. We knew what was ahead of us. We were able to, it literally shortened our learning curve.
And then when the deals started closing, they started closing fast. In quick succession. Even though it took us over a year to close our first wholesale deal of like trying.
Right. And the easiest way for us was, I'm going to say the least most expensive way was driving for dollars. We started off with the app that we use, Deal Machine, and literally just driving the neighborhood. Now, we started with cold calling. That didn't get us great success. We were afraid to do direct mail because we didn't know how to do it. And we didn't want to, it's expensive, so we didn't want to just throw money out there because everybody else was talking about they did it. We had no idea how to do it. So we were doing cold calling. We tried to outsource it. That was a disaster. So then we came upon the Driving for Dollars app, Deal Machine, and I just started doing it. My husband wanted no parts of it. He was like, oh, this is just going to be another software we get you. And no, we're not getting it. I said, all right, great. I got it. So.
So we would be like driving down the street and she'd be like, hold on, pull over. I'm like, what are you doing? We're going out to eat. She's like, no, can you pull over? I need to take a picture of this house. I'm like, what are you doing? Little did I know she was using this app to like snap pictures and send postcards to these sellers to see if they wanted to sell their house. So that's kind of how it started. That's
literally how it started. And then all of a sudden, I recruited my mom, who's retired. So I recruited her to help us. As a deal finder. So she started driving. Then she had my uncles and aunts, unbeknownst to me, finding her property as well. So
each one teach one. I love it.
You see, we had like 100 properties going out, and all of us, 300 postcards going out. And then all of a sudden, the week after I went full time, which was June 8th of 2018, I fired my boss. I said, hey, give me 1 week off. I don't want to do anything. I just had my son had just turned 1 on June 8th. I said, give me a week. Let me relax a little bit. That didn't work because that whole week I said, oh, I really don't have a job. I said, okay, I got to do something. So I said, listen, I got to take the biggest part of this business off of his plate because he's still working. And I don't want him to have to focus on his 9 to 5 and then still one of the biggest aspect of our wholesale business. So that's the marketing. I never done marketing a day in my life. So that week I learned about marketing, about all the different aspects of it. It was the most boring stuff in the world to me until I started to realize it was like a puzzle. And I absolutely love puzzles. I can do it all day, every day.
She has a puzzle room in our house. We looked at marketing as puzzle pieces together.
Literally.
Get your brain sharp.
From that point on, that's exactly what it was. And it became such a challenge to me. I loved it. And so then I took over the marketing within 2 weeks after I fired my boss. We had 3 or 4 contracts from wholesaling. Our first 3 or 4 actual contracts from wholesaling. And from there, it literally took off. I think our third wholesale was 100 and...
That was our second. So
second deal.
First wholesale deal, we made $11,000. No, actually, it was our third deal. Our second deal, we made $5,000. And our third deal, we made $105,000 wholesale fee.
Wow.
Just the fee.
So you made your mentorship money back and then some.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And most people would quit their job, throw the deuces up. But I didn't quit my job because I was like, look, this is great. It's great money. More money I've ever made in a year, right? From salary. But it was like, it's up and down.
Exactly.
So we're like, we want to be making this money consistently before we both quit our jobs. And we hear so many stories of people who close one wholesale deal, they make $15,000 and they quit their job. It's like, no, don't jump out the window that early, right? You want to have some consistency in your income before you just jump ship.
And realize that wholesaling is a job. Like people, people just forget that it's a job. Like if you want to get rid of a 9 to 5 just to go to another job, by all means. For us, that wasn't our plan. We literally only got into wholesaling to buy and hold. That's it. No other reason. So we tell people we came into it with the end in mind first. So our objective was to get to 1,000 doors. And we said the easiest way for us to do that is to get into wholesaling. So we now can control our deal flow and we get to cherry pick the best, wholesale the rest. And that's literally what we do right till this day.
So you all keep some of them for yourselves.
Oh, we keep majority of them.
And then that's really nice.
When a deal comes on the desk, and again, we're getting these deals at 40 to 50% of market value. The first thing is we're trying to keep it. How can we keep this in our portfolio? And a large portion of them, we keep it and buy it ourselves as rentals. And again, like she said, the ones we don't keep, we sell to other investors.
So how big is your all's portfolio now? Have you all shared that? How many doors do you have now?
We got right around 20 rental properties right now.
And then we
have another 60 doors under contract. We have a mobile home park, several multifamilies and some single families under contract, scheduled to close in the next 30 to 60 days.
It's incredible. Man. I just want to stop here and make mention, you guys. If you all have never watched them before, consumed some of their content, they are great educators. And Krystal said herself that she didn't like a lot of people just kind of wasting your time, just really like giving you this dream story without really like telling you the truth. So if you guys definitely want to learn from them, make sure that you go to hisandhermoney.com/drive $4. We'll have the links in the description box as well as in the show notes. But y'all's prices are actually reasonable, by the way.
It ain't $100,000.
I was like, wow, like very, very reasonable. So if you guys want to learn how to drive for dollars, again, go to hisandhermoney.com/drive $4 and definitely check them out, you guys. I got a question. And then we also have a question from one of our pro members. You mentioned that you all spent over $100,000 in mentorship and you did that for about 2 years before you finally got your first deal. What made you all keep going? Because I can only imagine, especially being husband and wife, that if my husband wanted to try something And by year after year,
I love how you said it's me.
one, right?
Put it on you.
And he spent like $100,000. I'm like, and we have nothing for it yet.
Man, I wouldn't have got to 10,000.
Like, wait, show me something. Show me a little something, right? So like, how did you all do that with the faith, knowing that, no, this is still going to work? Like, I know this might look foolish. I know that we haven't made a deal yet, but it's going to work. Like, how did you all know that?
That's real.
So that's
A great question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. A few things. One of them is, so we didn't spend $100,000 all at once because we didn't have $100,000 just sitting in the bank.
Right.
We had a checking and a savings, right? They didn't talk to each other. It was two different accounts. But we also have business credit. So I'm like a Nazi about my credit. That's how my credit score is over 800. So we're like, look, we're going to put this $5,000 for this mentor on a credit card, right? We put it on a business credit. When we close a deal, the first deal we close is going to go to pay this back, right? The next thing, hey, we're going to spend $2,000 on hiring some people to teach us cold calling, a system for cold calling. Right, so it was 5,000 here, 10,000 here,
20 masterminds,
$16,000 for a mastermind to get into a group with all 7-figure full-time real estate investors, right? So it was over time, and then my thing was like, once we spend all this money on education, there's no question like if it's going to work. We burn the ships, right? My credit's on the line. It's like this has to work, right? Because we both can't have bad credit, right?
And we didn't know it was going to take 2 years. But we knew that, like, for me, it was, I believed in him. So I knew that, hey, I didn't really, real estate wasn't my thing. My thing was more philanthropy. I love working with children, helping homeless. I just love that aspect of it. But his dream was real estate. And I believed in him enough to be like, okay, I didn't want to see another real estate book. I'm not going to hear about another real estate dream or scheme or anything. I said, listen, if this is what you want to do, because, people be like, oh, wholesaling, that's a scam. So when he brought it to me, it was just like, okay. Oh, every day. Okay. Yeah, well, I wanted to do, okay. All right. So, I started doing the research myself. And when I get involved, it's over. We do it. So I said, okay, so I printed out the steps that we need to do from getting the LLC, EIN, all of this stuff for the wholesale business. And I just did it.
If she wouldn't have did it, it would probably not. Literally the yin and the yang.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm the visionary and he's the integrator.
I love it.
And my husband is what they call, what is it you always say?
Analysis paralysis.
Uh-huh.
Like he will analyze something to death. And I will just be like,
let's just do it.
Just do it. Listen, let's just do it. We'll grow wings on the way down. If we don't, we'll live to tell the story. Okay. And we'll figure it out from there. But I believed in him enough to be like, yo, all right, it's 100,000, 50,000. Okay. Let's do it. Like, it was just, for me, I'm a visionary. So I'm literally.
She's more of a risk taker.
I'm a risk taker.
But we balance out in that way.
Yeah, he's the one who sometimes, even for me, he has to be like, okay, let's
reel this back in.
Let's reel this back in for a second. I'm also a giver. So I give, people be like, hey, listen, I want 80,000 for my house. I'm like, okay. And that's what I'm willing to give. I'm like, okay. He's like, listen, no.
You can negotiate. We can't trade places with these people.
Right. And that's what he reminds me of. So now I have it in my bag, in the back of my mind all the time. Like, listen, we can't trade places with them. So now it's a totally different ball game when it comes to it.
We're big on, and we tell you guys all the time, invest in mentorship, invest in courses. There's so much information out there, you all, where you don't have to learn the hard way. You can learn from those that have done it.
They're already bruised up. They can help you avoid it.
Exactly. So definitely check the Polites out, you guys. Go to hisandhermoney.com/driving for dollars. We'll have the links in the show notes. Now, we do have a question from one of our pro members. If you're interested to learn more about being a pro member, go to hisandhermoneypro.com. One of our pro members asks, what is your thoughts about services like connected investors, to use to locate distressed properties. You all familiar with that?
So,
Yes.
yeah, I'm familiar with Connected Investor. I think it's a good website to network on. You also have Bigger Pockets. But if you're looking for distressed sellers, guys, we recommend going straight to the source.
Yep.
Getting you a list of probates, divorce, late mortgage, people who have problems, and figuring out how you can solve that problem by purchasing their house. So,
Absolutely.
if you go through Connected Invest, some of these other sites, you're still going through another intermediary.
Yep.
You want to go straight to the seller, see if you can negotiate a win-win deal, and then profit from there.
And I would definitely say for people who don't have a lot of money, but more time on your hands, the best list that you're ever going to get, and I don't care if any investor tell you anything different, he is lying, so run. But the best list that you'll ever get is a driving for dollars list. And the only reason why I say that is because that's the only list that nobody else is going to have, right? So I can go online right now and pull a probate list for a Mecklenburg County and a specific zip code, and there's 400 other investors hitting that same list because you're literally just putting in some filters and you're getting that same list. And there's 1,000 of us out here marketing to those. But the reason why our list that we get when we drive for dollars, I've never stopped marketing to that list. And it's been 4 years. And the list that from the very first list I ever got driving for dollars, we're still hitting with marketing and we're still getting deals from them. So one of our, matter of fact, just to give you some numbers, our very first list that we ever that I ever submitted for marketing, we just hit with a text message blast 6 months ago and got 15 new leads from this list that is 4 years old that we've hit with cold calling, ringless voicemail, direct mail, and each of them has been done probably about, I'm going to say at least 10 times. And then I just hit it with text messaging probably about 6 months ago and got 15 new leads from people who we've hit with all these different other avenues. So I tell people the houses that you can physically see are the best ones.
See the distress.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, real quick, driving for dollars is basically just driving around your neighborhood or your city and looking for properties that are in disrepair. Maybe they're boarded up. The grass ain't been cut. The leaves haven't been raked. You see it. There's no curtains in the windows, right? Seeing that distress. So when you see that physical distress, a lot of times there's some financial distress behind the scenes. There's other forms of distress going on.
Tired landlords.
Right. Yeah, where if you reach out to that seller, you may be able to help them with that problem property. That's what driving for dollars is.
And then how do you all find the investors? So there are people that are going to drive around, they're going to find distressed properties, but then how do they connect this particular possible lead with an investor?
Right. So the first thing is we're the investors. So when we're doing it, we're finding stuff for ourselves. And then, if someone's out there listening and say, hey, I want to start driving for dollars. Hey, if you find a deal, it doesn't matter. In whatever state, whatever city, any price, any location. And if it's a deal where the numbers pencil out, we'll buy it. We'll be your first cash buyers.
All right, you guys got your investors.
We're cash buyers. We buy nationwide. We close deals in like 7 different states. We will literally buy it. Follow us on whatever social media, send us a message. But yeah, once you have a deal, the problem isn't deals. The problem is there's more money out there than there is deals. So you have a deal where you're getting a house that's worth $200 for $110 and it needs $20,000 in repairs. You won't have a problem finding a buyer for that property because you bought something under market value.
Right. And some different ways to find your buyers out there. You can always list your property, go into some of these city specific Facebook groups, real estate Facebook groups. So it could say Cleveland real estate investors or, Atlanta real estate investors, these smaller Facebook groups. You're going to have a ton of buyers in there. Another ways we found cash buyers. We've done like what we call ghost bandit signs, right? So we'll put a bandit sign in the yard. And typically you want to do it in a yard a house that's not brand new, doesn't look like it needs any help, but a fixer-upper, right? Or even one that's abandoned, right? If you see a house that's abandoned and you put on here, for sale by owner, 2-bed, 1-bath, 18,000. Call this number. And then you put your phone number. Your number is going to blow up with people who's wanting to buy what they think is that house. As soon as they call, you say, oh man, I literally just went under contract, but hey, listen, if they fall through, you're going to be my first call. Let me get your information and your buying criteria. What else are you looking for? Because I get these type of properties all the time. And when you really get a little money, you get your little website you can give to them. And you say, hey, listen, man, you just missed it. That one just went under contract. But if they don't perform, you'll be my first call. But in the meantime, here, go to this site. And it could be literally just a landing page with your entire buying criteria, all these questions that you want to vet your buyers, have them fill it out. But until then, get pen to paper and write down what it is and all their information just to keep you a buyer's list. Put it on Craigslist, right? We've bought a ton of deals off of Craigslist, and we've also sold a bunch of properties off of Craigslist.
Would have never thought of that.
Facebook Marketplace. The only thing I tell is don't put the front of the house on there because you don't want the owner to be like, wait a minute.
She's selling my property. Yeah.
But everything else around the back, the side, look pictures on the inside, but nothing where people can also what they call daisy chain your deal. So they'll get it and they'll find it and then they'll go to the owner, go around you and
offer them more money.
The property under you, right from underneath you. So there's a million little tricks to literally finding cash buyers. If you have a little money and you have a software, you can literally go into that software like PropStream and pull a cash buyers list. And what you're going to do is put that property in that you have under contract and do an area search around that property to find all the people who's bought houses in that area in the last year for cash only. Those are your cash buyers right there. These people who are buying for cash, and you can even filter it to say, hey, which one of these cash buyers has bought 10 properties in the last year? So you know these are your real serious cash buyers, ones that you're going to call personally yourself. So there's a million little tricks to finding buyers out there.
It sound kind of fun. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, that's the way y'all make it seem.
Sound like a full-time
like
job.
an adventure. You know what I mean? Connecting all these dots. Talk about maybe some of your students, some of the results that they've gotten as a result of connecting with you all, because your story was a result of you all investing in your education, which you said streamlined your ability to see success. So what are some of the students that you all have taught seeing?
Oh, yeah. So we've had students who have literally, and even with a lot of our students that are starting out, they'll contact us and we'll actually have to jump on a call with them and help them close a lot of these deals. But we've had students who closed, we have a student who closed a mobile home park with our help. We've had ones who's went from locking up land deals because we're really big on land as well. We own a lot of land as well. So we've had students who literally purchased
One in Tampa.
like $1.4 million worth of land and ended up wholesaling it. She got it under contract and then sold it for like a 6-figure wholesale deal.
Wow.
Then we've had students, a lot of our students who we are big on buying virtual real estate. So a lot of our students come to us on how to buy virtually and then how to buy and hold. So we're very big on buy and hold. That's literally what we teach people to do, to use wholesaling as that tool to actually put some stuff on your board, as our mentors say, which is Monopoly. Put some properties on your board. So all of our students, we've had them locking up properties. We used to be in the Cleveland market really, really heavy. So we've literally probably single-handedly gotten probably about 200 people in the Cleveland market to buy and hold real estate in that market now. And we have students all over Boston. Ironically, my hairdresser, who wasn't a student of ours, but ended up being a student just from her doing my hair. She was trying to buy a salon. Well, she was trying to rent one. And the guy had offered her, he said, hey, well, you can rent my building if you fix it up, gut it and fix it up. And it needed, she showed me the pictures, probably a $150,000 renovation. But she wouldn't own it. He was like, oh, well, you know, we can talk about what the lease and stuff will be after the work is done. And she said, okay, well, let me, you know, ask my sister and I'll get back to you. And she brought it to me. I was like, you lost your mind. You are not going to sink $150,000 in somebody else's building and you don't own it. So I told her, I said, listen, when you find a building that you want to rent, talk to that owner about seller finance. And she was like, oh, well, what's that? So she sat there. I didn't know because she was literally doing my hair and my makeup and was taking notes in her note app on the phone. And she wrote down every single thing I said. I had no idea because I'm literally on my laptop and I'm just giving her all this information. And she came back to me a month later and she was like, hey, I just thought I should let you know. I literally just locked up, I think it's a 1,600 square foot commercial building for my new hair salon. And I was like, oh, shoot, okay. And she was like, yeah, and I use your seller finance information. I was like, wait, what? I forgot I even told her about that. You know, people, don't nobody
you
really
don't know
listen
who's listening,
to you.
yeah.
It's really not that easy to do, but it's not complicated. And she said, I swear to God, all I did was I literally just read note for note as you told it to me to her. So she was like, oh, I never heard of that. And she was like, yeah, so this is what it is. And she literally just read exactly what she wrote down for me. Then the lady was like, oh, well, how does it work? She read that note to her. And she was like, oh, okay, well, what do I have to do? And she read that. She said, it went perfectly. And she was like, oh, so now all I need your help is I have an attorney. He never heard of it. I said, oh, my God. So I said, okay, well, here's my attorney. Go to my attorney and he'll help you close the seller finance deal. And the owner thanked her because she'd never heard of this before as well. Creative strategy. And she just thanked me because she's just like, yo, I never thought I would actually own something, you know, in my life. A house, let alone an actual commercial building. She was like, and it literally worked perfectly to a T. So, I mean, people are.
What did she do? She took action.
Right.
I think that's the biggest.
That's really what it was.
The biggest thing. Not only has she helped her hairstylist, but my barber, I've coached him and he's closed 2 wholesale deals. So if my barber can close wholesale deals, he took action. He listened.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. What you got to do is just take action.
Hey,
awesome.
That's dope. All right. So, I mean, y'all
take
got
action,
the
y'all. Go to hisandhermoney.com/driving for dollars.
And I love the fact that for a lot of people, that's what's stopping them from achieving I know several off the top of my brain that I've had conversations with. They want to get into real estate investing. They've been wanting to get into real estate investing, but they don't have that cash for the down payment, the renovation. This is a way for you to get in the game and a way for you to drum up the cash. That's what the Polites do. They use that wholesale cash for their acquisition of rental properties. And now that they know the wholesale game, it's also a way for them to get deals themselves that they could buy at discounted prices. So this is like the key to opening that door for a lot of people to the entryway into real estate investing. So, I mean, this is super dope, guys. Thank y'all so much for breaking all this down. I feel a little bit better about this. Because I was like, wholesaling. You know what? I'll keep it real. The one job that I ever had that I hated the most, you remember back in the day, was selling. I had to call people to sell them picture packages. And I just couldn't stand calling people like, yo, I got this great package for you. And then they hang up on you and you get an attitude and you know what I mean? Like you cold calling people. And I just equated wholesaling to that. My 16-year-old self getting hung up on.
But then you had to sell people into the army.
I know, man. I did not like that job. But anyway.
It wasn't in vain.
Anyway, I think this is super dope. And for a lot of people who want to build wealth, and that should be everybody listening and watching, this is a way that you can get that ball rolling without having to have swole up bank accounts. Even this education that the Polites are offering is affordable. And the value that you'll get from the education will far outweigh what you pay for. So we bring you experts, we bring you resources. The difference between those who win, those who don't,
take action.
Is action. Take action. Y'all want to sit in them seats the Polites are sitting in? They on their way to 1,000 doors. You got to take action.
Right.
That's the difference. So we just want to, again, thank you guys for coming on, sharing this insight with us. For those who want to keep up with you on social media, where do they find you?
Yeah, so they can find us on all things Be Polite Properties, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Also, you can just look up Dedric and Krystal Polite. Another thing is we have a television show coming out. We're actually in the middle of filming a national television home renovation show. So that's going to be coming out early 2020. So stay tuned for that.
2022?
Sorry, early 2022.
Yes.
That's awesome, guys.
Congrats. That's dope. How do we keep up with the progress of that? You're going to
follow them on social media.
Follow on social media, then y'all put out where it will be and all that?
Yeah, we'll post it on Instagram. But we really appreciate you guys. We've been following you guys from afar for years. Appreciate all the knowledge you guys share, being a Black couple sharing financial empowerment. So
yes, this is actually the first announcement of it too. So we had to actually
wow.
That's
so congrats.
You got definitely got an exclusive.
Congrats. We will be watching.
Heck yeah. Got our popcorn ready.
Yes. That's incredible.
All right, guys. We've given you the insight, the information, the knowledge, the resources.
And the pro members loved it. They said, this has been great. So thank you so much.
Now, if you was a pro member, you could have asked your wholesaling questions. So if you want to be a pro member, go to hisandhermoneypro.com. Guys, we really, truly want you guys to take action. Please.
Action. That's the moral of their story. You know, taking action.
Don't just be consumer. Don't just be a waterpreneur.
There you go.
We need you to take action to become the entrepreneur and the investor that God created.
And then turn around and teach others, just like the Polites, turn around and teach other people how to do the same.
All right. Everything that we mentioned to you guys in this episode is in the description box under the video. Or if you're listening to the podcast, just check the show notes. The links are there. Click it. Get started. Take action. That's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Till next time. Peace.
Bye, y'all.